Hi everybody, thank you so much for joining me today to listen to me speak about something that is both deeply personal to myself and critically important for workplaces everywhere. The connection between sleep, gender equity and workplace performance. So firstly, I'd like to start by just introducing myself. So I'm Nicole Ratcliffe and I've been supporting families since 2017 to get a better night's sleep. And since 2023, I've made it my mission to change the way parents and anybody struggling with sleep is supported and educated in the workplace, breaking down the walls of stigma and laying foundations for positive relationship with sleep, thus improving mental and physical health, productivity and retention, with a focus on helping to close the gender pay and career gap by supporting more women in the workplace to continue with their careers. So how did this all come about? So in 2017, I returned to work after maternity leave and I found myself in the real dark depths of sleep deprivation and with struggles with work and performance. But since then, I've been working with families to improve sleep, but also researching to help change the culture in the workplace to support returning parents back to work. It began with my first published paper, Breaking the Silence, Revealing the Truth About Parenting in the Workplace, which showed the size of the problem for parents, mostly mums, returning to work. But it was thought that this wasn't enough to make the changes that were needed. There needed to be a financial reason for businesses to see how this was impacting their bottom line and to prove that by supporting sleep, they could benefit financially, and this led to the latest publication of Supporting Sleep Health, the Key to Occupational Wellbeing and Productivity. These two research papers, combined with a case study that I ran with Atlanta Group, have given me great insight into the size of the issue and how important it is to get gender equity by improving sleep. So this has led me here to talk to you today about inclusion starts with rest, the impact of sleep on gender equity and workplace performance. So let me just start by asking you a question. How many of you that are listening to me now got at least 7 hours of uninterrupted sleep last night? If you did, you're in the minority because nearly half of workers are sleep deprived. And for working parents, especially mums, that percentage climbs even higher. Sleep deprivation doesn't just make us tired, it impacts every aspect of our lives. It affects how we think, how we feel, and how we perform in work. And here's the key point, it doesn't affect everybody equally. Women in particular bear the brunt of disrupted sleep. They're more likely to wake in the night for caregiving duties, more likely to carry the mental load of household tasks, and more likely to experience sleep challenges related to hormonal changes, just like things like the menopause. The impact is stark. Every year, around 54,000 new mums leave the workforce in the UK alone. That's 54,000 women whose talent, expertise, and potential are lost. Not because they're incapable, but because the system isn't designed to support them. If we want to talk about inclusion, equity, and thriving workplaces, we have to start with rest. Sleep is foundational. It's not a luxury, it's a necessity. And what's more, it's free. And yet it's often overlooked in conversations about workplace well-being. So let's take a closer look at how sleep deprivation disproportionately affects women and parents. First, the numbers. So women perform on average around 60% more unpaid work than men. This includes caregiving, housework, and the mental load of managing a family. This doesn't change much, even with the seniority of a woman's role. Even if it increases with women at senior management level and above, they're still taking on 52% more of the unpaid domestic labour compared to the man's 13%. At entry-level roles, men still only pick up 30% compared to a woman's 58%. Among women working parents surveyed, 69% report that their child's sleep disruptions are their primary source of fatigue. And after childbirth, 95% of parents get less than the recommended hours of sleep, with 59% of parents experiencing sleep deprivation up to 6 years later. Now, think about what happens when these sleep challenges intersect with workplace expectations. Women returning from maternity leave often face discrimination, with 30% reporting unfair treatment. This includes being overlooked for promotions, excluded from projects, or questioned about their commitment to work. The impact isn't just professional, it's personal. Sleep deprived women are more likely to experience anxiety, depression, and burnout. And then there's more. Menopause, another life stage where women face significant sleep disruptions due to hot flashes, insomnia, and hormonal changes. Research shows that menopause related sleep issues are a leading factor in women leaving the workforce in their 40s and 50s. So we see a pattern. Women are navigating sleep challenges that are directly tied to their caregiving roles, biology, and workplace culture. Yet these challenges are often invisible, or worse, dismissed. So, one particular group that is especially affected by sleep deprivation is working parents, particularly new mums. Research has shown that after returning to work, 62.5% of people struggle with sleep. Nearly 44% feel that they cannot confide in their managers about how bad things really are because they're fearing judgment or being dismissed. And here's the hard truth. 1 in 3 parents report having had a negative experience returning to work after having a baby. Many feel unsupported, isolated, and unable to perform their roles safely or efficiently due to lack of sleep. So some statistics to think about. 40% of parents said their baby didn't sleep well enough for them to function safely at work until their child was between 18 months and 3 years old, with an additional 22% saying it was past 3 years. Now, I just want to clarify, this is safely. This isn't to do their job well. This is to do it safely. As a result, 27.8% of parents left their job due to lack of support after returning to work post-baby. 25% of new mums stated there was no inquiries about their well-being upon returning to work. That's 1 in 4, that's mad. And 46% were afraid of being seen as incapable. And 37% felt embarrassed to ask for help. This is frightening. But what is the cost of ignoring sleep? So let's shift gears a minute here and talk about the cost of sleep deprivation for individuals, for businesses, and for society. So the individual impact. Sleep is critical for cognitive function, emotional regulation, and for physical health. And when we don't get enough sleep, we're more likely to make mistakes, struggle with memory, and react emotionally. Just consider this for a moment. After 17 hours of wakefulness, your brain functions as if you've had 2 glasses of wine. After 24 hours, it's the equivalent of being at the UK's drink drive limit. For sleep-deprived parents, these impairments can feel constant. And one mother shared, I was waking up every 2 hours to care for my baby. By the time I returned to work, I couldn't think straight. My manager assumed I was just unmotivated. Assumed. I'd love to share my personal experience with you of returning to work after having a baby. I was in a field sales position and I was driving a lot for my role. I wasn't sleeping as we had 4 months of constant illness when my daughter started nursery, and I was regularly falling asleep on the motorway in between my appointments, and I'd lost all motivation to speak to potential customers. I went from being one of the top performers in the business, who had also been a top performing sales manager, to one of the worst in the business. I wasn't safe to do my job, but I was told that there was no alternative, and I needed to make the decision to either get on or go home. Well, there's no option to quit when you've got the bills to pay. So instead, I put myself and other people's lives at risk on a daily basis. And I didn't think about it this way at the time. I was in the midst of sleep deprivation, and I was made to feel like I was failing because I couldn't just get on with it like other people. I felt like the issue was me, not the situation. Looking back, I know how wrong this was, and as a business, how neglectful they were. So, the business impact. Well, for employers, the stakes really are high. Sleep deprivation costs the UK economy about £40 billion a year in lost productivity. That's £1,035 per employee per year, according to Gravitate HR. And it's not just about performance. Fatigue increases the likelihood of workplace accidents by 70%, 70. In high-risk industries like transport, construction, and healthcare, this can be catastrophic. It's thought that the nuclear disaster in Chernobyl was actually caused by sleep-deprived operatives. And the long-term impact of this is still ongoing. So just consider these statistics. Drivers getting less than 4 hours sleep are 11 times more likely to crash. 11 times. 16% of fatal road accidents involve a drowsy driver, but some estimates suggest that the true number could be as high as 40%, or zero. I want you to just close your eyes for 4 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4. It isn't long, is it? But that 4 seconds as a micro sleep on the motorway is the equivalent of driving the full length of a football pitch with your eyes closed. How does that make you feel? Just sit with that for a moment and think about how that felt. 1 in 8 people have admitted to falling asleep driving, and 37% of people have said that they felt scared that they would fall asleep while driving. 4 seconds. That is all it takes to change or end a life. I want you to read the wording on a policy that I had to sign to state I wouldn't drive tired when I returned after maternity leave. Road accidents are the biggest cause of work-related accidental deaths, with up to 20 people on average likely to die in work-related road crashes every week in the UK. Often, accidents happen due to tiredness or because attention is distracted from the road. X company wants to reduce the risk involved with driving on business and also has a legal responsibility to take reasonably practical measures to ensure people who drive on business do so safely. If the companies have this in their policies, why is more not being done to support individuals with sleep? This may have to change soon because a blood test has been developed in Australia that can detect for tiredness, and it's thought that this could be in the UK by 2025 and be a roadside test by 2028. Tired driving is illegal. And there's also talk of it not just being the driver that gets prosecuted, but the employer, if they aren't putting into place the right measures to make sure that their employees are safe to do their job. This is still in trial phases, but the fact it's there means that it is on the way, and employers do need to be ready for when this hits. It's better to be proactive than reactive. So let's look at the gendered cost, the cost of society. When workplaces fail to address sleep challenges, women pay the price. They're more likely to scale back their careers, they're more likely to leave their jobs, and more likely to internalize the message that they're not capable. Okay, let's see if I can. This isn't just a loss for women, it's a loss for business and society. Diverse teams perform better, innovate more, and drive greater profitability. But we can't achieve diversity if we're driving talented women out of the workforce. If we want a world where our daughters can grow up feeling like they don't have to choose between having a family or a career, we have to start making changes today. Employers need to stop presuming that women will take the time off when the child is poorly and offer equal support and compassion to both parents. Raising a child is not solely the mum's responsibility. So make it clear to men that they too can take time off to care for their baby or child, that shared parental leave is the norm, that it's okay to have flexible working so they can be a family and raise their child together, rather than the current family dynamic of it landing on the woman's shoulders. Our children are watching us today, and from what they see, how do you think they think their future looks? So I want to share some more voices from my research. Okay. One mother said, I returned to work after just 7 months. My manager pulled me aside to ask how I would make up for the time I spent expressing milk. I felt humiliated and unsupported. This isn't unique. Another parent shared, after weeks of sleeping for 2 to 3 hours a night, I asked for flexibility. My manager dismissed it, saying, other parents manage fine. I eventually left the company. But here's a success story. At the Atlanta Group, employees were given 30 minutes of work time each day for a week to complete my sleep education program. The results were remarkable. Now, unfortunately, I'm in this little corner here, so you can't see the words. So I'm going to tell you what they say. This is what I was trying to shift before, but I couldn't move it. Mental health scores improved by 28%. Anxiety levels dropped by 16%. Collectively, wake-ups per week dropped from 47 to 19. This is over the people that were involved. And 80% of employees reported feeling more effective in work. Most importantly, employees reported better morale, stronger relationships, and improved job performance. One participant's experience really stood out when she said that work that had started taking her 3 to 4 hours to complete and needed a second person to cast an eye over it was back to taking just 1 hour because she was finally sleeping. The return on investment for both the business and for the individual here is immense. These examples show the stark contrast between workplaces that ignore sleep and those that take it seriously, and the impact it can have. Employees leaving versus increased loyalty. Where would you prefer to invest your budget? Recruitment or retention? So, let's look at some solutions for workplace inclusion through rest. How do we address these challenges? Here's 4 key solutions. Flexible work policies. Allow employees to adjust their schedules. For parents, this could mean starting later after a tough night or working remotely when needed. Flexibility can make the difference between an exhausted employee and an engaged one. It can simply be that leaving work 1 hour early to miss the traffic, to pick their child up at a sensible time, allowing them to connect with their child, getting their child to bed at a sensible time, making bedtime easier, improving the child's sleep overall, lowering the parent's anxiety, and then they can make that hour up in the evening. Who's the most productive in the last hour of the day anyway? Yeah. Why not actually flip this and make sure the family get the time that they need and the work is still done and everybody's happy? Manager training. Managers need to understand the impact of sleep deprivation and how to support their teams. Simple actions like having a conversation about what an individual might need to make their life easier, and then seeing what can be done and what can be offered can make the world of difference. Just asking if someone's okay isn't enough because you're always going to get met with, I'm fine. Offering managers the chance to brush up on their coaching and conversational skills and to understand what signs to look for to establish if somebody might need further support is vital to get the best out of their team member and establish trust and respect in that relationship. Sleep education programs. Provide employees with access to sleep workshops and resources. Teach them about sleep hygiene, stress management, and practical strategies for improving rest. These can start as early as pregnancy. setting the scene for both parents so they can plan ahead to make sure both parents are getting adequate sleep and that the role of parent and housekeeper doesn't just fall to mum. Establish fair boundaries from the beginning with a plan to adapt these when both parents are back in work so it doesn't just all fall to mum. Normalise the conversations around sleep. Create a culture where it's okay to say, I'm struggling. One employee shared, when my manager simply asked how I was doing and really listened, it changed everything. I felt human, not just an employee. Please follow Elliot Ray, who has started the Parenting Out Loud campaign. Parenting isn't a one-woman job, it's a two-parent split. For those who may not be fortunate enough to have a partner for support, please check in on them more and see what allowances can be made to give the single parent the opportunity to thrive in their career and raise their children. We want to model to our children that it's okay to have a family and a career, and it doesn't have to be to the detriment of a person's mental health. So, inclusion starts with rest. If we want to close the gender gap in leadership, retain top talent, and create thriving workplaces, we must address sleep. For employers, invest in your people. Support their well-being. The returns in productivity, loyalty, and innovation are worth it. For employees, speak up. Advocate for yourself and for others. Asking for help is a sign of strength, not weakness. Together, let's create workplaces where rest is valued as much as results. Because when we support sleep, we support equity, innovation, and success. So, if you want to read the research papers, you can head over to the website, which is theworkplacesleepcoach.com, to read more. If you want to talk to me about how we can improve sleep in your workplace, contact me at hello@nicoleratcliffe.co.uk. I want my daughters to grow up in a world where they're treated as equals. What about you?